Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. We are from Group 4 and we will present the ecosystem of Islamic Capital Market and the difference between the features of Islamic Capital Market. So we go through the summary. So what is Islamic Capital Market? Islamic Capital Market is a part of Malaysia's broader capital market. It contributes significantly to the nation's economic growth. The ICM operates in parallel with the traditional capital market and aids Malaysia's Islamic banking system in developing and expanding in Islamic financial markets. Islamic capital markets also serve the same purpose as conventional capital markets in the Islamic financial infrastructure. For example, they are used to raise sizable sums of money in the form of debt and equity instruments. We go to the next presenter.
Alright, next is about the features of Islamic capital market. So economic activities are subject to some divine provision in Islam, and these restrictions are being imposed by Allah Almighty. So as a result, the Islamic capital market is have its unique features which can be different from the conventional one. So firstly, the business activities which have been applied in the Islamic capital market must be Sharia compliance in both the equity market and debt market. It is different from the conventional where the company itself doesn't limit its business activities. So the company in the Islamic market must be engaged in Sharia compliant business activities, and to keep the status of the Sharia compliance in Islamic capital market, the Sharia Advisory Council has imposed some regulation or benchmark on the business activity and financial ratio, which can ensure that the business is free from any element that is prohibited in Islam. So the secondly is the use of proceeds. So in the Islamic capital market, all of the plan or prospectus that the customer want to invest in must be through Sharia compliance screening, as there is a restriction in the use of procedure that need to be abided by the company to maintain the compliance status. So the company must create a concrete strategy to allocate the capital received, and at the same time ensure that the Sharia compliance status of the investment. It was different from the conventional market, whereby they can freely invest in any capital market without any prohibitions, such as investing in unlawful sources like drugs or alcohol. Okay, and then the next is the broader market exposure. So with all the provision from the Sharia, it makes the Islamic capital market have broader market exposure than the conventional ones. It is because in the Islamic capital market, both conventional and Islamic investor can freely invest in the market, while different from the conventional, where only conventional investor can invest in the market, as it is not acceptable transaction to the Islamic investors. Alright, and then the lastly is the type of structure. So the structure type of both conventional and Islamic capital market is very different from each other. The conventional one just use debt based only on the debt market, while the Islamic capital market use multiple types of the structure in debt market. For example, asset, investment, and even debt based. Since the conventional debt market just use a debt based structure, it will give a burden to the investor as it contains the element of interest or riba, which make it prohibited in Islamic transaction. But it is different from the Islamic capital market, where the implementation of multiple structure make the transaction permissible. For example, implementation of ijarah to buy an asset, where the asset will be purchased first by the financial institution and then will be leased to the customer with the rental payment that have been agreed on. This kind of debt market is permissible as they are free from the element of impermissible in Islam. So I will pass to the next presenter.
Alright, for the first product for Islamic capital market, which is Islamic mutual fund. Islamic mutual fund is an alternative method of investment for private investors who are lack of necessary knowledge to invest directly. So, Islamic mutual fund operates by investing to the Sharia compliance counters that follow Sharia ruling in their business. So the characteristic for Islamic mutual fund is that the whole operation are free from the three that is prohibited in the Al-Quran, which is gharar, maisir, and riba. So when it is prohibited, so what they do, they before they invest to the counter, they will make sure that the company financial structure will free from these three element, and then they also free from involving alcohol, cigarette, weapon and others. So Islamic mutual fund operate with qualitative or financial screening that have been proposed by AWIFI. So one of the ratio that they use is that the mutual fund cannot invest in a firm which has raised-based debt over than 33% of the market capitalization. Next, we will look for private equity. Private equity is a capital that is not listed on a public market as an alternative investment class. So the fund obtained from in an insti- institutional and individual investor to be used in the finance innovative technologies, increase capital market, working capital, strengthen and stabilize the balance sheet. So there are two types of partners in PE, which are the first one is general partner, who only obtain 1% of the full liability, 1% of the fund with full liability, and the other one is limited partner who own 99% of the shares. So the difference between Islamic and conventional PE is that the significant is significant, especially in their feature, structure, and fundamental requirement for fund. So Islamic private equity and fund use Sharia-based structure for their operations, such as mudharabah, which is profit sharing, syarakah, and wakalah. Other than that, Islamic private equity needs to select a Sharia advisor to offer ongoing assistance in ensuring that the investment contract and the structure of this instrument are always in conformity with Sharia, and the investee firm basic operation must be Sharia compliant. But conventional PE do not operate based on Sharia compliance, make it capable to gain the fund without abiding Sharia ruling. So therefore, the company that involved in conventional PE do not have to obligate from these three element, which is Maisir, Gharar, and Gharar and other. So Islamic PE also face difficulties compared to conventional one because they receive more attention. Conventional bank receive more attention because the market and market participant are more familiar with it. So I think that's all for PE and Islamic mutual fund. We will continue with Sukuk.
Okay, next for the next instrument which is Sukuk, I will explain about Sukuk. So according to the BIS Malaysia, Sukuk can be defined as a certificate or equal value that demonstrate undivided ownership or investment in asset utilizing Sharia principles and the ideas authorized by the Malaysian Sharia Advisory Council. So what are the features of the Sukuk compared to the bond? The prohibition of the riba or the interest is the main features that does not exist in the bond. The Sukuk holder will receive a yield that is generated based on the performance of the underlying asset. This is the process where the Sukuk avoided the element of interest. Sukuk also has more advantages. Sukuk holders can be divided into two types, which are the partial or the full. Partial and full ownership. If the issuer defaults, the Sukuk holder may liquidate the asset to gain back their principal. But for the bonds, if the bonds issuer defaults, they will lose all the principals. In terms of the pricing, the Sukuk price will be based on the underlying assets. This means that the higher the price of the underlying asset, the face value of the Sukuk will be higher, while the bond pricing is based on the issuer credit worthiness. The higher default for the issuer, the higher the interest rate need to be paid to the investor, and the higher value of the bonds. Next, I will explain about the Islamic derivative market. So, the Islamic derivative market are the financial instrument that has been designed and adjusted to be compliant with the Sharia principle. This contract do not exist during the Prophet Muhammad times. So the Islamic derivative is used for the hedging purposes only, while the conventional derivative can be used for the multiple purposes. Most scholars stated that they do not permit the derivative due to the element of excessive uncertainty. However, it is permissible with the guideline which the transaction should be entered for the purpose of hedging to to the relevant party actual risk, and the actual asset and the payment should take place. Unlike the conventional, they may use the derivative without the underlying asset. This is where the speculation can exist, and Islam prohibits its followers to do so. So I will pass to the next presenter for the next instrument.
So next is Islamic structured product. So Islamic structured product are becoming increasingly popular in Islamic finance. It is the first Islamic dual currency structured investment product that was authorized in April 2006 under the structured product offering guidelines. SP was created in 1980 only for institutional investor. Islamic structured product are similar to conventional structured product, but with the difference that the former is Sharia compliant. So structured product for conventional is more on the goods such as stock, bond, and bank deposit. Meanwhile, in Islamic structured product must comply with the Sharia perspective on their underlying assets, and the Islamic structured product must not involve with any prohibited activities that contrary to Sharia compliance. So they have some contracts in there such as tawarruk, murabaha, bai'inah, wa'ad, and bai'urbon. So these are types of Islamic structured product. And as mentioned, Islamic structured product should comply with Sharia perspective, which is riba, gharar, and maisir are prohibited. So for Sharia compliant stock, as a Muslim, Sharia is an Islamic rule guideline in for us to obey and live according to. So investment is not prohibited. Investing is strongly recommended in the Islamic context to ensure a person's well-being. Of course, Islamic investment must follow Islamic standard. So they have several Sharia screening stock methodologies because when we want to invest in other business, so we have to follow this screening. So they have 3 screening. So the first is companies' main business must not be prohibited activity like interest, gambling, or any prohibited product. And second is the most essential factor is the company's image or public impression, like what they will give the benefit for the investor. Then the third is the donation to non-permissible activities should be limited. So the difference between Islamic compliant stock and conventional stock is we can see that the comply of the Sharia perspective, like the forbidden of riba and any of illegal activities. Okay, next.
So for the conclusion, there are 6 instruments that exist in Islamic capital market. The 6 instruments have their uniqueness, unlike the conventional capital market. Provision of riba, maisir, and war are the elements that existed in Islamic capital market instrument. Islamic capital market instrument that does not exist in the conventional capital market. So all the instruments must adhere to the Sharia guideline to make the instruments valid. These instruments must have underlying assets, and the asset must be Sharia compliant. Furthermore, for the Islamic derivative, it is permissible, which is used for hedging purposes. This shows that Islam cares about the safety of its followers, and this is in line of the maqasid of Sharia, which is the preservation of wealth. So from this plot, it shows that the difference between the Islamic and conventional markets in the perspective of their features and characteristics. So that's all from us. Thank you.